Natasha checked the time on her phone screen once again. There were still 2 hours left in the workday when a message from her husband arrived. Dinner at 7. Andrei Petrovich and his wife are coming. Don't be late. The woman sighed heavily and set aside the unfinished report. Victor's business partners again. Endless conversations about business again. And once again, she would sit quietly at the corner of the table, forcing a smile. After 10 years of marriage, evenings like these had become routine. I need to stop by the store, she muttered to herself. Fruit, wine, fresh greens for the salad. At 37, Natasha felt more like an aging housekeeper than the wife of a successful businessman. No children. No career. No personal interests. Just an endless cycle of household chores and social dinners. Natasha, do you have a minute? Her coworker Sveta peeked into the office. Maybe we can hang out after work? We haven't talked in ages. Sorry, I can't. My husband has important guests coming over. I need to prepare, Natalia replied automatically. I see. Same as always. Husband, home, cooking. Oh, my friend. Suddenly, her phone vibrated again. This time, it was her sister Marina. Natasha, are you sitting down? Her sister's voice sounded unusually serious. What happened? Grandma Paulina, she's gone. Natalia felt her entire body go numb. The last time she had seen her grandmother was a year and a half ago when she visited the village for New Year's. She had planned to visit again that summer. But when, was all she managed to whisper. She passed away peacefully in her sleep last night. The funeral is the day after tomorrow. Marina paused. And you'll need to come to the notary's office next week. Grandma left a will. The small notary office was packed. Besides Natasha and Marina, their husbands were present, along with Marina's lawyer. Marina, as always impeccably dressed, nervously tapped her long nails against the table. Her husband Georgi flipped through some papers with an important look on his face. Can we begin? Her sister asked impatiently. I have an important meeting in an hour. Very well. Notary Semyon Arkadyevich cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. According to the last will and testament of Paulina Andreevna Voskresenskia, her property is to be distributed as follows. The 3-bedroom apartment in central Moscow, located near Chisty Prudy, is transferred to her granddaughter, Marina Alexandrovna Vorobyova. The house in the village of Berezovka, together with the adjoining land, is transferred to her granddaughter, Natalia Alexandrovna Medvedeva. Natalia immediately felt her husband tense beside her. Victor had already been making plans for Grandma's apartment. He intended to open a branch office for his company there. Excuse me, but there must be some mistake, Marina's lawyer said, adjusting his tie. The value of these properties is incomparable. The apartment is worth at least 20 million, while the village house. There is no mistake, the notary replied calmly. The deceased's wishes are stated clearly and unambiguously. Marina smiled triumphantly. What is it, little sister? Unlucky again? Though why am I surprised? You've been the same your whole life. Always in the shadows. Always silent. Always satisfied with my leftovers. Marina, stop, Natalia whispered quietly. Stop what? I'm telling the truth. You couldn't even give your husband a child. Though maybe that's for the best. The drive home with Victor passed in complete silence. Only when they reached their apartment building did he finally explode. As always, you screwed things up. You couldn't even get a decent inheritance. A wreck in some godforsaken village. Is that really all you're capable of? Where did you even come from? Victor, but it's not my fault. Shut up. I'm tired of being married to a loser. Pack your things and get out. Go to your rundown shack. That's exactly where you belong. And don't call me anymore. You're as useful as a goat that gives no milk. All you do is spend money. But where will I go? Tears streamed down the woman's face. I don't care. Tomorrow I don't want to see you here. That night, for the first time in 10 years of marriage, Natalia slept in the living room. The next morning, after Victor left for work, she began packing her suitcases. Inside, she felt empty and hollow, like the abandoned house she had inherited from her late grandmother. An old bus dropped Natasha off at the only stop in Berezovka. She looked around. The village seemed completely deserted. Only the old birch tree by the road waved its branches warmly, as if recognizing an old friend. It took Natasha about 20 minutes to walk to her grandmother's house. With every step, the suitcase felt heavier and her heart more anxious. Finally, she saw the familiar gate, leaning crookedly to one side. The grass in the yard had grown waist-high. The once neat garden beds were overrun with weeds. "My God," Natalia whispered as she looked at the house. The paint on the shutters was peeling. Parts of the porch had rotted away, and only the frame of the veranda remained. She remembered the house differently, bright, cozy, filled with the scent of herbs and fresh pastries. "Natashka, you finally came?" A cheerful voice rang out. A plump woman in a colorful apron hurried over from the neighboring yard. "Aunt Valia!" Natalia exclaimed, recognizing her grandmother's friend. "As soon as I heard the bus arrive, I thought I'd better take a look. We've been waiting for you." The women embraced. Aunt Valia smelled of fresh bread and dill, just like Grandma once had. "Come to my place and have some tea." "Your yard?" She hesitated. "It hasn't been taken care of in a long time." Over tea and homemade pies, Aunt Valia talked about Grandma Paulina. May she rest in peace. She worked with herbs until the very end. People came from all over the area. Some needed tinctures, others needed herbal remedies. She never refused anyone. But once she got sick, she declined quickly. "Just 3 months. Why didn't anyone tell me?" Natalia asked bitterly. She wouldn't allow it. "Don't disturb her," she said. "She already has enough worries of her own." That evening, when Natalia finally gathered the courage to enter the house, she was surprised. The rooms were clean, as if someone had recently tidied them. "That was Aliona, the neighbor's girl," Aunt Valia explained. "She took care of your grandmother during her last months. Even now she comes by, dusts everything, and airs out the rooms." Grandma's bedroom looked exactly the same as before. Bundles of herbs hung from the ceiling. The old vanity stood by the wall. A chest filled with sewing supplies sat in the corner. On the table lay a stack of yellowed envelopes. The top letter was dated the previous month. "My dear granddaughter. By the time you read this, I will be gone. Forgive me for not calling you to say goodbye. I didn't want to become a burden. You've already endured enough in life. I must tell you the truth. The apartment in Moscow came to me from my first husband, Georgy Petrovich. His daughter from his first marriage was the mother of your sister Marina. I accepted the girl as my own, but she never forgave her father for remarrying. Later, her granddaughter grew up with the same character. I know I hurt you by leaving you this old house instead of the apartment. But this place holds my soul, my strength. Every blade of grass and every currant bush remembers my hands. This is where I was truly happy. In the cellar, you'll find jars of herbal blends. That is your inheritance. And inside the chest are notebooks filled with recipes. Don't rush to throw them away. Take a closer look. Perhaps this knowledge will be useful to you someday. I love you, my dear girl. Grandma." Natalia sat down on the old bed and pressed the letter against her chest. Outside the window, the apple trees Grandma had planted rustled softly in the breeze. The air smelled of mint and thyme. "So, how are you settling in?" Aunt Valia appeared in the doorway. "Can I help with anything? I really want you to feel at home here. We have a good life here, a kind one. Don't rush away. Stay a while and see for yourself." "Thank you," the woman said with a smile through her tears. "I think I'll stay." "That's exactly right," the neighbor nodded happily. The house is solid. It just needs a little repair, and you'll be fine. We'll help however we can. Just don't lose heart. That night, for the first time in a long while, Natalia slept peacefully. She dreamed of a blooming garden, the fragrance of herbs, and her grandmother's smile. The next morning began with a gentle knock at the door. A thin young woman stood on the porch, with a light brown braid and large gray eyes. "Hello. I'm Aliona." Her voice was soft and melodic. "May I come in?" "Of course. Aunt Valia told me about you," Natalia said with a smile as she studied her visitor. Aliona stepped inside hesitantly and stopped beside the old dresser. "Grandma Pollia used to dry herbs here. She spread them out on newspapers: mint, oregano, St. John's wort. I used to help sort them." "Were you here often?" Natalia asked as she took cups from the cabinet. "Every day after school. She gave me tea and told me stories." The girl hesitated. "When she got sick, I tried to spend as much time here as possible. I couldn't leave her alone." Natalia looked at the girl with regret. She had always believed she was her grandmother's favorite granddaughter. Yet during Grandma's final months, it was this quiet, modest girl who had stayed by her side. "Sit down. Tell me about her. What was she like recently?" Aliona sat carefully on the edge of a chair and smoothed the folds of her skirt. "You know, she talked about you a lot. She showed me photographs, especially the one where you were little, wearing braids. She would say, my Natashka was always kind and sensitive. She carried everything in her heart." The girl looked uncertainly at the new owner of the house. "I was thinking, maybe you need help with the herbs. Grandma Pollia taught me a lot. It would be a shame if all of it disappeared. Do you really want to help?" Natalia asked, studying the girl carefully. "It takes time and effort." "I do." For the first time during the entire conversation, Aliona's voice rang with excitement. "Grandma Pollia used to say that herbs are like people. You have to love them and understand them. I could show you everything she taught me, if you don't mind." Natalia smiled as she looked into the girl's serious gray eyes. "You know, I have a feeling Grandma brought us together on purpose. Let's try it together." That was how their friendship began. Every day after school, Aliona came over. Together they studied Grandma's notes, sorted herbs, and restored the garden. "Look, this is oregano," the girl explained, pointing to a small bush. "Grandma Pollia said it's not only good for tea but also gives you strength. And this is St. John's wort. It helps with 100 different illnesses." To her surprise, Natalia discovered that she enjoyed the work. Gradually, she learned every herb in the garden and learned to recognize them by their scent and appearance. "Let's try making tea," Aliona suggested one day. "I have one of Grandma's recipes. It's called Summer Morning. It contains 7 herbs gathered in a special way." The first tasting took place at Aunt Valia's house. The neighbors gathered together, bringing pies and homemade jam. "My goodness, it's exactly the way Paulina used to brew it," elderly Nina Stepanovna exclaimed. "The same aroma. The same strength." "Could I buy a jar of this tea?" asked a young teacher from the local school. "I'd love to purchase some." That same evening, Aliona brought her laptop. "Natalia Alexandrovna, let's start a blog. It's popular nowadays. We'll tell people about herbs and publish Grandma's recipes." "A blog, Alionushka? I don't know anything about that." "I'll help. We studied social media in school. We just need a beautiful name." That was how the blog Grandma Paulina's Herbs was born. The first photo, a bouquet of thyme on an old windowsill, received an unexpectedly large number of likes. By the end of summer, the garden had been transformed. There were neat beds of medicinal plants, a gazebo for tea gatherings, and a drying area for herbs. Inside the house, Natalia set up a special room for packaging and storing herbal blends. "You know," she told Aliona one day, "I never imagined I'd be doing this. Now I wake up every morning and feel like I'm truly living." "That's wonderful. Their first major order arrived unexpectedly. The owner of an eco-friendly store in a nearby town ordered a trial batch of tea sets. But the packaging needs to be beautiful, the customer said. People need to feel the story behind it. For an entire week, Natalia and Aliona worked on the design. They used old photographs of Grandma, dried flowers, craft paper, and ribbons. "Thank you for this magical tea," the first customer wrote on the blog. "I've been drinking your sleep blend and sleeping like a baby." By autumn, the blog had gained more than 1,000 followers. People wrote messages, asked for advice, and shared their stories. "Grandma Pollia always said herbs are alive," Aliona explained while helping package another batch of tea. "You have to talk to them and thank them. Then they'll give you all their strength." One evening, while looking through Grandma's old notebooks, Natalia found a note. "The most important thing in our work is love, for herbs, for people, and for the land. Without love, nothing will succeed." "You know," Natalia said to her companion, "I think I finally understand why Grandma left me this house. This is where I finally found myself." "She knew it would happen," Aliona replied. "She felt it." Outside, the renewed garden rustled softly in the wind. Cups of herbal tea steamed on the table. And notifications of new orders kept appearing one after another on Natalia's phone. 6 months passed. There was a knock on the door as the sun was beginning to set. Natalia looked up from her laptop, opened the door, and saw Victor standing on the porch. Her husband looked as flawless as ever. An expensive suit. Confident posture. Designer accessories. Only his gaze had changed. It was calculating. "Natashka." He smiled his trademark smile of a successful man. "May I come in?" Without a word, Natalia stepped aside. Victor entered the house, critically examining everything around him. "You've settled in nicely. Honestly, it's surprising. This isn't how I imagined this little house. It looks cozy. Comfortable. Impressive." He paused. "I'll admit it, I followed your progress on social media. Interesting project. Growing audience. You've finally become someone more than just a housewife." "Why did you come?" Natalia asked calmly. "You know, I've reconsidered my attitude toward you. Let's say you passed the test brilliantly. Now you've earned the right to be my wife, a successful, independent, self-sufficient woman. We could make an excellent team. I'll help take your business to the next level. I'll open doors to the right offices and connect you with the right people." Natalia gave him a sarcastic smile. "So when I was nobody, you threw me out of the house. And now that I'm standing on my own feet, you've suddenly decided I'm worthy of you? Well, you have to admit, before." Victor grimaced as he searched for the right words. "Let's say you weren't ambitious enough. But now you've grown. You've become interesting. I'm proud of you." "Proud of me? Victor, do you really think you can just come back and start over like nothing happened?" "Why not? I have connections, money, experience. Think about the opportunities you're throwing away." "No," she answered firmly. "I'm no longer the woman you can control. And it isn't about success or money. I simply don't love you anymore, and I don't respect you." "What?" Victor's face twisted with shock. "You're rejecting me? Me? Do you even understand what you're turning down?" "I understand perfectly," Natalia replied. "I'm turning down a person who values others only for their usefulness and the size of their wallet. That's not the kind of life I want. Leave, Victor. And don't come back. There's no point. There is still one unresolved issue between us. The divorce. And I intend to deal with it in the near future. Get out." Natalia had barely recovered from Victor's visit when, a week later, Marina arrived in the village. "Well, little sister, you've done well for yourself. I see you've gotten back on your feet. I've been following your blog. Very impressive." "Marina, I'm very busy. Say what you came to say and leave." Oh, why so cold? We're family, not strangers. Sure, we've argued before, but that's all in the past. Forget about it. I was thinking maybe we could form a partnership. I have connections and opportunities. We could open a chain of stores in Moscow. You'd be in charge. And I would just keep gathering herbs? Natalia interrupted. No thanks. I'm happy here. Then stay in your village, her sister hissed. Just don't come running to me when you go bankrupt. Some businesswoman from the countryside you've turned out to be. That evening, Natalia told Alyona everything. The girl listened carefully and suddenly said. What if we open a tea house right here in the house? The veranda is large enough. We could set up tables, serve tea, hold workshops. You think it could work? Of course. I'm graduating from school this summer. I don't want to go to college right now. Let's work together. You've become like an older sister to me. Natalia smiled and hugged the girl tightly. And you've become like a younger sister to me. You know what? That's actually a wonderful idea. Let's do it. In the spring, Grandma Paulina's tea house welcomed its first guests. Antique furniture, lace tablecloths, and herbal blends displayed in beautiful jars created a special atmosphere of warmth and comfort. The small online shop grew into a serious business. Alyona handled operations effortlessly, as though she had been doing it her entire life. Every post resonated with followers. Every customer felt special. Orders began arriving from all across the country. And recently, their first package was shipped to Prague. Natasha sat in the garden, absent-mindedly sorting through clover stems. She remembered how Grandma used to plant those bushes while saying, "Clover is stubborn and resilient, just like our family. No matter what happens, it always grows back." Natalia Alexandrovna. Alyona's voice pulled her from her thoughts. The girl was waving a tablet like a victory flag. We've been invited to a festival in St. Petersburg. A big international one. Looking at her assistant's flushed, excited face, Natasha suddenly understood something clearly. The old house in the remote village had become much more than a roof over her head. It had become the launching pad for an entirely new life. Grandma had known. All along, she had known that here, among the fragrant herbs and old apple trees, her granddaughter would finally discover her true self. She had given her far more than a home. She had given her purpose. A calling. Joy. And Alyona, the younger sister she had never had. The wind swayed the branches of the apple trees. Bees hummed among the grass. Voices of visitors drifted from the open windows of the tea house. Natalia took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the spicy fragrance of herbs. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." The end.